So, where do you want to start off at?
Where I want to start out with, in this concept of bringing to light how Hank has a focus developed on something that most of us have just identified that we may not be familiar with. But he is, fortunately tonight, an accessible member of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, so to introduce myself, name's Hank, but everyone knows me as Dank Hill. What originally started as like a community-based project and even spread out into multiple different projects. But at the end of the day, it just came down to just educating people on just dabs and glass, like gadgets, if you will. And the reason why of such is it's at such an accessible point now to where there isn't as much of an excuse of why we're either running away from it or treating it like it's a taboo. Right. If you got people out here that's able to smoke like 8 to 5 backwoods a day, you could literally cut into that tobacco use by just taking 1 to 2 dabs a day just because of the strength alone. So,
when we talk about the strength of these products, there is a debate about the actual labeled strength of the products that are in the market. Do y'all know this is happening?
Meaning one is better than the other. When you pick on the strength.
Close is more so of mislabel of getting people to buy products more through labeling. Like, let's say, for example, to not throw stones at certain brands.
Right.
We'll just say a strain instead. Bio Jesus.
Right.
Put a name to a strain. But it's like 30%, right? Its label is 30%.
30% what?
THC, right? As a whole, right? This is where a lot of people get the misconception. And then they ask, okay, what's the THCA? What does that break down into? You have, and this is a rabbit hole, by the way, so I won't bore y'all with it, but when you have stuff like CBN, CBG, even like down to where like how you have CBD, Delta 8 and all of that, that's just a different derivative of cannabis as a plant as a whole. That doesn't mean it's not weed. It's just a different application and form of it, just like you have different forms of medication. You know what I mean? So always keep that in thought process of like, hey, what type of high do you want? Like if it's CBD or something like that, you want to treat like, you know, pain. But back on tangent though, help me out here. We was talking about, labeling, right? So when you're breaking down the percentage, always look on how that breaks down. You're looking for the THC. So something that's labeled like 30%, to be honest with you, is probably 24%. Even down to the controversy of what's indica, sativa, and hybrid. To be honest, y'all, it doesn't matter. It's the effects you're looking for. That's been debunked years ago because there is no such thing as a full-bred indica or a full-bred sativa anymore. Everything is effectively hybrids. So the way how it's like decided on like, okay, this is an indica sativa, I'm going to be real. Taste and effect. Then it's down to a point to where even the strains that are grown start off as numbers. Then they're named. So all the stuff that you see floating around dispensaries is very few that actually have a name based on like, hey, here's this double lineage or here's this wall of a lineage. Why do you think cookies failed the first time when they first tried to launch their stuff here? Yes, I will take it there because cannabis is not just some cookie cutter form of thing that just because we saw a couple videos on how to grow something, that's how it's going to come out. This is still a plant. That's the whole reason of like if you really want to start off growing cannabis, you get your medical license. It's cheap now, by the way. It's way cheaper now. You got $100, you get yourself a medical card. And then from there you grow 4 plants, right? Treat that literally how you would a house plant. You play music for your house plant. You check in on your house plant. You know, hey, if your house plant looks like it needs nutrients, you're gonna look up stuff on how to save it. You're not just gonna let it die. But the whole thing is you have to have fun with cannabis. even if it's just consuming it. If you don't even care about, oh, I don't even want to press it, just that I just want to smoke it, that's cool. You could do that. But at the end of the day, that still comes down to being educated.
Yes. Yes.
Like, if you drink, right? There's a difference between drinking, what is it, Mad Dog, and drinking like,
Modelo.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very big difference.
So that's actually a segue point. Don't mean to bounce around, but this is a great
so
way.
If that's a segue, then let's hold one second.
Okay.
Because we do want to keep this in context of perspective, because in this moment, if you don't know who Hank is, then there ought to be some context on these statements of this being just a plant at the end of the day while being referred to as a weed. And how did he get into the dabs and the glass when most of us, if you could raise your hand, got into this just through the flower? I mean, that was me. It was just through the flower. And so,
Well, to be honest, for me, I was a late bloomer when it came to cannabis. I actually waited until after college to get into it, just because it was very, very, very like shamed upon in my household. You know, I came from a Hispanic household. My mom's Colombian, so it was just like, look, we already had enough stereotyping. There was already enough gray areas on how bills were paid. I'll leave it at that. So, me being the baby, they was just like, no, we are treating weed like it is cocaine, if you will. And I respected that, right? So we fast forward. As soon as after I got out of college, you know, I'm just like, hey, I got my degree. I'm an adult. I'm paying about 75% of the household. I'm gonna try weed. And the first moment that I tried it, I was just like, okay, this is crap. And I know this is crap. And my first dealer was stressed. He's like, you never even smoked it before. I'm like, it's been around me in my life, sir. It's just I didn't have the opportunity to smoke it out of respect for my parents. So let's get it correct. So I'll never forget. I'm just like, I'd rather be a consultant myself. And I built up a network for my friends, so that it's just like, look, don't go over here, go over there. So what started off as a passion project of like, how can I build a network across like the city so that my friends don't have to overpay for quality and still not have to get stuck to one person? Because the thing people, you know, completely forget, like, okay, yeah, you have dispensaries, right? But you also have to treat your street pharmacists with respect too, because they have lives. You have some people that have like 9 to 5s and stuff like that. So like, let's say for example, if they do get their brick and mortar, right, would you still treat them exactly the same? And I always frame that for people, you know. And same for farmers.
And that's a very relevant point in the context of what's happening with the social equity scene right now. You know, because if there is language that gets the legitimate market going, that's promising people that were in a legacy market that they would have some part in the future, you know, ultimately they got to set the race. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And now they're telling all the participants to play the game, but it's not 100% solidified. You get what I'm saying? Yep. The fight is still going on, and I think that's as a transplant, I think that's a unique aspect of the culture in Chicago and Illinois that I've seen so far. And I believe MJ Biz, do any of you follow MJ Biz? Okay, MJ Biz is a publication. They recently put out a survey that was just trying to measure up the markets. You know what I mean? And this market here is at least in the top 5. It's at least in the top 5 right now. You know what I mean? So it's something that's worth, if you want to see opportunities really go where they're not today, you don't have to just sit back and accept it. And that's what we're hearing at this point. And if you're here in October, you'll also be able to hear that from Illinois Social Equity for cannabis. And they'll be talking to the specific things that they're going through to make sure that the legislation reflects the promises, because it's through the laws. That's what Margot let us know in May, that it's through the laws that this access, this labeling, because at the dispensary, that's what they're selling, that's what they're marketing, that's what they're telling us. You know what I'm saying? But what if you don't even know what you're supposed to ask?
Yep. So an issue that I've noticed that's been going on, even from, what's messed up is it's from a consumer-based level and an industry level. So, excuse my French, you're screwed coming and going. But it shouldn't be that. Like if I'm passionate about cannabis and I want to work for it, and I have the experience, I should be able to do that. It's not, how does this look on paper? How does this look on photos? You're supposed to get people that know, but instead, they just look for sales experience, and then it becomes a retail experience.
65-year-old retiree.
Yeah, come there.
Yeah, come on in. Yes, sir.
It's
Bring it in.
yeah, you can bring it in. So you have that whole issue of like that whole retail pressure experience, which is toxic, because then you have people that end up losing their jobs or they quit, because who wants to deal with basically working for the cannabis version of GameStop? Nobody wants to deal with that.
Cannabis version of GameStop.
That's what a good man, don't have me drop some names. But the main thing is also on the consumer based level, right? If you're going in there as a medical patient, then you're fine. They will take the time to actually like break it down for you. But if you're going in there as like just a regular retailer, paying the taxes and stuff like that, right? Then, well, good luck. They're gonna give you the adult use cannabis spiel of like, here's the price list. Okay, well, what does this one do? Well, if you scan this, a Leafly link will pop up, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry, I asked you. Or you do have a hands-on experience, and then it turns into a whole thing of like, hey, I'm gonna try and upsell you as hard as possible, and it's like, look, I just told you my budget. Here's what I'm here for.
And if we can kind of parse through that, do we have any medical patients here besides?
No, but I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The CBD, do you have it in dab?
That is actually available. So there's CBD dabs now. There's Delta, 9, 11, and
Called Delta.
oh yeah, there we go, and 12.
And it doesn't leave any residue of THC?
It depends on, because here's the thing, CBD is fine, but are you doing governmental trucking or is it just contract trucking?
Contracting would be on my own.
Don't play with the government.
And that's an interesting thing with the marketing that you bring up, because they may have us believe that, they have pulled the plant apart. And if they really have, then they're misleading you to begin with. You get what I'm saying? So if they're really just selling you botanicals and terpenes, but they're putting a strain name on it, that's a valid question to have. And it sounds like you are hitting on the adult use. Are there other medical patients?
Oh wait, one more thing though, real fast. Like, now to your question, right? The thing is, and this is for anybody else that's watching, like, that's let's say you're trying to wait to get clean for a government job or something like that. That does include CBD, literally, because there's different levels of panels. Do with that information what you will, looking on Google with that. But like, you got your 3-panel test and your 4-panel test. Government don't play around. I think they use like 4 and 5-panel or whatever. I have to double check that. But that means that they test, everywhere else just test majorly for powder substances and stuff like that. They don't care about THC. But 4 or 5-panel or whatever, like the real like high level, they test for cannabis in general. It doesn't matter. So, oof.
Okay. Sort of easy, but how long does this stay in your system? I mean, how long would you say that it stay in your system?
That's
Is
the
it over
unfortunate
30
thing about
days?
cannabis. Even
About
though
a month? I mean, what?
even though it is the less, or should I say, it's the most healthy of, like, growable things if we put in our body or whatever, it takes the longest to get out of. So if you are to, like, try and go completely clean of cannabis, how often do you smoke will dictate that, and that's minimum to 30 to 60 days. If you smoke, like, I'm talking Snoop Dogg, like, every day,
Never stop.
ooh,
Now,
yeah,
is
you got 2 months of a cleanse. You can still use stuff like cleansing agents, but that you're still looking at like a month. There's no like, oh, I got good for like 2 weeks or whatever. That's only for like the smaller panel tests, which at this point in time don't even matter to go clean for. You're better off paying for somebody else's urine. I mean, you know, not necessarily,
right.
yeah. But yeah,
And so it sounds like you progressed to a point in life where you had to deal with stigma, and your best solution to addressing that stigma was just not really consume at all. And then at some point, you saw this as an option. Was there something about your previous experience that made you realize this was an option besides just like, doing it for,
shit's good.
just to be a part of a culture, of like a pop identity,
So
you know?
it's funny about that. I feel like my love came from like my friend's love of it, but the things when I actually tried it, it helped out greatly with, mental health. Um, I got like severe PTSD and anxiety issues and stuff like that. So it's like that and ADHD. So cannabis is kind of like a combination of the movie How High and the series Frasier. So it's like it calms down my anxiety, but it also opens me up to where I can process my emotions without getting stuck in a loop, a PTSD loop, to where I'm depressed and I don't want to leave my house because I'm stuck in my head. You know what I mean? And then that evolved over time of like where I was catching base with other people, smoking with them, but we talked. So, I guess it's like a Trojan horse in a way. So it does help other people effectively with like facing their mental health easier, but also at the same time it makes it like a Trojan horse on like really just kind of connecting with others. It's almost like another language. So you mean to tell me that I can either, let's say for example, someone that has like restless nerves or something like that, they can smoke an indica, calm down, shoot the shit, while okay, hey, this other person may need a sativa or something because they got like a 12-hour shift 3 hours later or something like this. It's just that little, the connectivity that a little ass plant can do.
And you mentioned earlier that at this point in time, the way that they produce indica versus sativas is really based upon the taste and the effect.
Yes.
Can you break that apart as opposed to just like passing by?
Oh, absolutely. So here's the thing. Considering the fact, as long as weed has been going on how many times it's been grown, different like cultivators and stuff like that, we have so many different strains now that if you notice, even if you look on Leafly, All Bud, or any of those sources, right, there are no 100% strains anymore. There's no 100% sativa or indica. It's just effectively hybrids. So 80 20% splits, 60-40% splits, 70. You know what I mean? Like,
Is that only here in the States?
no, that's everywhere,
All around?
all around. Because think about it. Just like how you have vegetables and tomatoes and stuff like that, there's so many different types. That because like people are constantly breeding it, constantly, and that effectively just opens up an entire world. But the bittersweet thing about it is, we'll never have like a perfect like Durban poison or a perfect platinum OG. You know what I mean?
And
So
there are people who hunt seeds.
yes, and that's the thing. So there are probably some growers out there that have old school lineages, but it's more cost effective to just kind of keep that on the low of like just giving it to different growers rather than like, you know. And that's the thing. So it's like how that affects our market for the future is going to eventually become a wild, wild west. We're currently now going from a consumer-based market to an enthusiast-based market, to where the education is out there and people are now just like, look, I'll grow it myself. So, whew,
It was nice meeting you guys.
Hey, thank you,
I
sir.
gotta get to work.
take care. Stay in touch, man.
What's your name, sir? Ross. Pleasure to meet you, Ross.
All right, what you got next?
Okay, so we got enthusiasts.
Take care, y'all.
Thank y'all so much for visiting. Appreciate it.
I don't know.
So we have 5 minutes past 8, which is great timing. Thank you.
Of course.
You definitely left a lot to discuss,
Sorry
and
about
that's
that.
the fascinating thing about these socials, is that there's clearly not enough time to talk about the whole picture, and so there is several more socials going through November where we'll be able to talk about the very things in further detail that Hank has brought up today, from the different CBDs. We done talked about 13, 10, 11. Like, yo, I'm still 9, 8. He talking about panels, you know, for the government, valid questions.
It's so much info that's out there, man. Like it's hard to just kind of unpack, but it's like the more of these socials that we have, the more that we raise people's interest. So we want people to Google and look into this stuff, because now we're in the age to where you don't gotta like use the Tor browser just to look up stuff about. Yeah, y'all remember a couple years back, like 3 or 4 years back, when you had to have a protected safe VPN just to look up about hash? Woo, not even order it. Just look it up. It's crazy. But yeah.
And so I believe you touched on a few things that will help us decide responsible ways to consume concentrates in this discussion, specifically talking about strength, and knowing the difference between what is in these different types of concentrates that are available. So if you could provide us a couple tips for consuming extracts and concentrates responsibly from the experience that you've had.
So honestly, I would say, first thing, and this is like really, really important, you guys want to essentially use if anything, I would say use a electronic rig. To define the difference between a regular rig and an electronic rig, one or both actually use heat to evaporate, if you will, or should I say vaporize the concentrate so that you can breathe it in, right? Now, if you're using just your regular rig, then you have to use a torch and sometimes a temp timer and all of that, and that's daunting for a lot of people. For some households, I won't go into details, but seeing a torch in glass can be triggering for some households. So if you want to start off, there are other electronic rigs that are under like about $100, in between $100 to $150. and I'll just drop a couple of names. The Luca Dragon Egg, for example, is between $70 to $100. The Dr. Dabber XS, that is between $170 to $135, depending on where you can get it from. And then you also have another device it's not a electronic rig per se, but it is a portable analog rig that I feel is also a good start for people. This is a cold start rig, and that is by Stash, and it's the Rio, the rig in one. So if anyone looks that up, it looks like a little choo-choo train. It has a torch attached to it, but within that level of accessibility, I would say you have the Luca Dragon Egg, easy peasy. You only need some Q-tips. The Dr. Dabber XS, which you need a little bit of knowledge of just breathing, like between just breathing or just, sipping. So that's a lesson in air control. And of course the Rio, which you do have to have good cleaning habits for, including ISO, alcohol, Q-tips, and all of that jazz. So yeah.
So breath control and being mindful of the triggers of others around you when you're deciding how you want to consume.
Because let's be real.
Alcohol, and swabs.
True.
Alcohol swabs.
Like being clean with your glasses,
Yeah,
everything.
keep your glasses clean so they don't get clogged.
Please, everybody. I know you could look at something from afar and it's like, okay, that looks clean or whatever, but like, you have to clear out the water in your glass. Always clear out the water in your devices, because bacteria grows in that. So imagine, even if you have something that's non-spill or something like that, you're dabbing concentrate and mold. I'm a fan of cheese too, but we don't mix that. Now for our next show, like, that also goes into like concentrate in dispensaries that unfortunately have the issue of mold in their concentrate. But that's a whole different other topic, and that's about, as we said, retail wise, you have product to sit, right? So that also goes for flour. So when it comes to concentrate and stuff like that, or even wax pens and stuff like that, they use what's around. But that's another different topic though.
Definitely. And thank you so much, Hank, for your time.
Hell yeah, dude.
I appreciate you, brother. We
Yeah,
do
yeah.
have a how was it that will be a summary of the talking points that Hank has provided in this July Smoke Responsibly Social, plus resources that he will recommend. He already dropped some, All Buds, Leafly, if you didn't already know them.
Yep.
Even on the dispensary, they're using
Feel free to
those.
hit me up.
Feel
Dank
free to
Hill
hit-
Returns.
Dank Hill Returns on social media. I do not have a card, mail, but
Nah,
Hank may have a card.
I don't want me, but I will fix that by next show. But feel free. I'm on Instagram. Dank Hill Returns.
Dank Hill Return.
Well, returns with an S.
With the S. With an S. Yes. With an S. And so it'll also have resources for you to see how you can educate yourself without others, individuals, valid resources, empowering resources such as Illinois Normal. You know what I'm saying? Just plugging them because they are a sponsor. As well as Oaksterdam University, if you'd like to save some money on getting a formal professional education, you'll
Nice.
be able to use a Daily Roller code to save 10% off of an extraction, a industrial manufacturing class. So if you want to get in the, established MSO industry, you have a pathway there. If you want to be a part of what's happening with the legacy industry, you'll have a pathway there. And these
I
are
definitely
all
want to talk to you
relevant
about that.
because the economics are happening around us, and they are still happening to the people that we do care about, even if it's just a celebrity that they're trying to throw in your face. So thank you so much. I hope y'all all make it home safely. let me know if there's anything that either one of us can do, and give us your email, and we'll make sure that that's addressed in some way.
Okay.
If you haven't already given us your email.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.